Hey guys, I'm Tommy with Studio Sense. You know, it wasn't always the golden rule of perfumery that the simpler, the better, that simple equaled elegance. Back in the day, back in the early 80s and 90s, even on up into the 2000s, fragrances often had a ton of fragrant notes in them, everything but the kitchen sink. But thankfully, perfumers today have figured out that golden mean or the golden rule of simpler is better. When we return, I'm gonna go over 7 different fragrances that are non-sweet. They're very hearty, they're very masculine. As I mentioned in my yesterday's review, I spoke with Ash from Jensen's about this. He did this video. I'm gonna show you my version of 7 non-sweet fragrances for autumn and fall. So when we return, we'll go through that list, that and more, so stay tuned. Hey guys, and welcome back. Back in 1985, a year before Back to the Future came out, I don't know why I remember that, just a little bit of trivia, because I actually remember going to see that movie. Pierre Warnay had a formula that he created for a very prolific designer company called Hugo Boss, and it became a very popular fragrance, in fact the flagship fragrance for Hugo Boss, and it was Hugo Boss number 1. Hugo Boss number 1 went on to be a grounding fragrance for Hugo Boss, and it stands today as one of the better kind of like fougere type fragrances for men that doesn't have sweetness in it. But again, talking about that formula is pretty complex. Let's go over some of the notes in Hugo Boss number 1. In the top, you've got basil, bergamot, tarragon, grapefruit, green apple, caraway, juniper, lemon. Heart notes of geranium, honey, orris root, jasmine, lavender, lily of the valley, rose, and sage, resting on a base of amber, oakmoss, musk, patchouli, sandalwood, tobacco, cedar, and cinnamon. Jesus. So that is a lot to put in a fragrance. This is an extremely soapy, extremely clean, mature man's slightly dapper, but not necessarily barbershop fragrance. So this fragrance is more at home in a nice gray suit and tie, going to the office, going to a lightly upscale event. This is a mature man's knows what he wants kind of fragrance. It does have some nice citruses in there, but that citrus never takes it in the sweet arena. It is very dry, it's very citrusy, handles itself as well as a mature man. So if that sounds like something you might be interested in, you might want to check out, if you haven't already, Hugo Boss number 1. Second in my list of 7 non-sweet autumn and fall fragrances for men can boast an even older formula. It came out back in 1974. It is the child of perfumer Paul Lager, and that is Givenchy Gentleman. Now this is the 1974 Givenchy Gentleman version. This one is very similar in terms of where it's headed as Hugo Boss number 1. It is only for mature men. Again, it's like your dad's or your granddad's fragrance. There's a very real thing in the fragrance community that I will term, personally, I've termed it fragrance dumbing. What is fragrance dumbing? Fragrance dumbing is when you smell a fragrance and you immediately, it strikes a similarity between an idea of what you remember something to smell like. For example, that smells like an ashtray. When you first smell something and you have a memory or an idea or a concept of what you remember something to smell like, and you compare it to a fragrance like this. Does it smell like an ashtray? No, it absolutely does not. This fragrance is a multi-layered, complex fragrance. In fact, let's go over the note breakdown. Bergamot, honey, rose, cinnamon, and lemon are in the top. Orris root, jasmine, patchouli, and cedar are in the heart. Amber, oak moss, leather, musk, patchouli, vetiver, and vanilla are in the base. So similar to Hugo Boss number 1, this one also boasts quite a few notes in its scent profile. It is not anywhere close to smoky or dirty or... Now the leather in this, it does have leather. It has a very nice leather note and it's one of the best leather-oriented fragrances of the 70s. Once you get this on the dry down, it is a very gentlemanly, very non-sweet, airy fragrance. If you want something gentlemanly that's got a really nice leather heart and base, I recommend Givenchy Gentleman, the 1974 edition. Within the very prolific career of Alberto Moria back in 2016, he was sanctioned to create a fragrance for Bulgari, and that is Bulgari Man Black Orient. Black Orient is an extremely rich, dark, complex, yes, that my trifecta phrase again when referencing fragrances that are complex and multi-layered. This is a rich, dark, complex, multi-layered fragrance. You twist the cap, it's how you spray on a sample. A little bit of pencil eraser going on there. Slight pencil shaving similar to Bentley Absolute. And what's happening is that oud is turning this into a very rich, intense, oriental fragrance. This is a very complete fragrance. You don't need sweetness. It's only in the last several years that sweetness has kind of made a bold new move into fragrances. And most fragrances from yesteryear don't necessarily have that sweet heart that a lot of fragrances today do. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I, for one, am all about the sugar revolution when it comes to men's fragrance. Fantastic autumn and fall fragrance. Very dry, very rich, very multi-layered. Can be worn in any situation, whether it's upscale or casual. Extremely versatile, hyper versatile. So this is elegance and simplicity in the formula. You've got rum and cardamom in the top, you've got tafe rose and tuberose in the heart, and then leather and oud as the base that it's resting on. It's masculinity come full circle within this fragrance. In 2018, Natalie Lorson and Olivier Cresp came together and they created Givenchy Gentleman, the 2018 version of the Eau de Parfum. Now the version that we talked about, the 1974 version, was an Eau de Toilette concentration. This is an Eau de Parfum concentration. They don't really share much in common in terms of DNA. There is a slight resemblance, but just a slight. It's more of a nuance and rather than anything substantial. But the difference that they are is very, very positive. This is an amazing, very dark, very elemental fragrance. You've got black pepper and lavender in the top. You've got iris, pellita, and toyo balm in the heart. And then you've got a patchouli and vanilla base that it's resting on. It has a very, very light sense of that vanilla in terms of sweetness, but it's a very dark vanilla in this. So it's extremely, extremely alluring without the sweetness. This is a confidence booster and builder and also a compliment puller. But it never strays into that sweetness territory. And that's what I love about Givenchy Gentleman, the 2018 version, is it never strays into that sweetness territory, but it still maintains that sophisticated center. In 2014, Dolce & Gabbana released a fragrance that basically said old money. And when I say old money, I don't mean like old people with money in their mattress. I mean like sophisticated but well-established aristocratic society. And that is Dolce & Gabbana Intenso Pour Homme Eau de Parfum. This is the Eau de Parfum version. This fragrance has so many really nice, well-blended notes, but it never says sweetness. It doesn't say youthful energy. It's very, very well-established. Again, it's very, very old money in terms of well-established, sophisticated, yet modern. They are very VIP affairs, and this is the VIP fragrance that would follow such an event. You've got some aquatic notes. You've got basil, geranium, tagetes in the top. You've got lavender, tobacco, hay absolute, and bran absolute in the heart, resting on a base of labdanum, sandalwood, and cypress. Dolce & Gabbana's Intenso is an extremely well-rounded fragrance. It's another one of those that it almost has a light floral sensibility, but again, it never strays into the sweet territory. What you think might be sweet is actually just spicy. So it's very warm, it's very spicy, it's very inviting, it's very aristocratic, and it says, welcome to the big time, welcome to money. This next fragrance that I consider very masculine, very pleasing, but not a lot of people talk about it. It is very underrated in my book. It is from also Dolce & Gabbana. It also contains the One DNA. It did come out in 2018. It is called Dolce & Gabbana The One Gray. Just like the name implies, this fragrance is a sweater fragrance. It is a concept fragrance for a specific fall and autumn mood. You've got cardamom and grapefruit in the top, provincial lavender and vetiver in the heart. You've got tobacco and you've got gray woods and ambergris, or actually ambroxan, in the base. It is a very modern, masculine men's fragrance. It smells just like something that would be fresh, clean, but a modern man would actually want to wear. But it does have a mood about it. It's like the gray woods that are in the base of this, that are enveloping the rest of the really nice, well-blended notes. It is a darker kind of, it's almost like a rainy day. Is perfectly named in my book. I have a tendency to do this when I'm wearing a sweater. I'll pull it up over my hands so that my hands stay warm. Gray is almost like that kind of same feeling, that kind of nesting or trying to get cozy type feeling. Perfect sweater fragrance. Definitely strays away from any kind of sweetness. It is lightly dry, The cardamom, which typically provides sweetness, dries off very quickly in this, so in the dry down, there's no remnant of sweet at all. Highly recommend picking up Dolce & Gabbana's The One Grey. Emily Bevier Copperman, back in 2001 for Lalique, created Lalique Pour Homme EQUUS. Now there are two types of Lalique Pour Homme. There is the lion, which is very clearly a lion head, and then there's one called EQUUS, equestrian, the horse, that has the horse's head. As you can see, this embedded into the back of the glass is a frosted glass horse. It's carved out there, or etched out, I think it's called etching. And it's really, really nice. I love the bottle. The presentation is super cool, and the fragrance itself is amazing. There's no way to smell this fragrance and wear it and not fall in love with it. But what's amazing is it's almost like, this is another concept fragrance, and I absolutely eat concept fragrances up because they're so intelligent. They usually wear very well, and they also are very mood boosting and mood lifting, because normally the concept is about buoying your own personality and benefiting you in some way. This literally is like walking into a horse stall and seeing a stallion, seeing it, kind of smelling the environment. And I don't mean, you know, negative smells. These are all like hay, sunshine, air, a little bit of like horse smell, dander, you know, like leather, a little bit of leather, a little bit of what a horse might smell like. Wood, definitely like wood chips on the ground, like cypress or cedar. In fact, the notes in Lalique Pour Homme EQUUS, you've got cardamom, juniper berry, and citrus zest in the top, violet leaf, mace, and sequoia in the heart. You got vetiver, amyris, and benzoin on the base that it's resting on. You've got that sycamore in here that very much is super pleasing to the nose. It makes it very woody. This makes me think of a lot of imagery typically associated with aristocratic society as well. So it is a somewhat mature man's fragrance. All of these fragrances that I've talked about today, of course, you know, young people can wear them. And when I say young, anywhere from 25 to younger, but it's more closely tied to a more older, a more mature, a more very well established type of person and personality. If you don't like sweet tooth fragrances, you're going to really enjoy these. Very non-sweet, very dry, but very sophisticated, very pleasing and masculine and clean. All those adjectives describe these fragrances, and most specifically Lalique Pour Homme EQUUS. Well guys, that's it for my list of 7 non-sweet fragrances that are specifically for fall and autumn, the cooler weather. As cooler weather comes, we begin to shed our short sleeves and wear it, especially I do. I like sweaters, I like hoodies, I like grabbing all my Patagonia stuff and getting it out of storage, dusting it off, maybe cleaning it and wearing it. When you layer up like that, it does make it a little bit harder for those around you to smell your fragrance. These fragrances are designed to penetrate clothing, to have really good projection and really good performance. If you have any experience with any of these, make sure to let me know in the comments below. Thank you so much for stopping by and checking out my video today. As always, thank you so much for your support on my channel. I'm Tommy with Studio Sense, and I'll see you tomorrow.